Hello everybody, I'm Haitze, I'm 30 years old and I have schizophrenia. I am currently in psychiatric detention and I really like stories with one animal that's like really small and another one that's really big, like the elephant and the mouse. I often hallucinated I'm peeing my pants, and in 2022 I lit my own house on fire and went to jail. And I pretty much enjoy all foods. I have no allergies and I really like long walks on the beach. Today I'm wearing my batik. That's Thai for seal sanctuary or umbrella with horn. It's also Indonesian for shirt. And when I'm wearing my batik and I'm feeling very Indonesian, I like to go out for lunch with friends. The other day I went out to get some nasi, having a social lunch with friends. And while we were just talking through our days and weeks, I was thinking, hold on a minute. You just want to poison some wild boar or deer with your saliva. Well, I see you guys thinking, and you might have guessed it by now, I have Komodo dysmorphia. The condition where you slowly start to believe your friends or family have been replaced by Komodo dragons dressed up as these people. This can have a very unsettling effect on people and it has really impacted my well-being. But I've learned to use certain tools to manage this condition. The most important one is challenging myself to French kiss these Komodo dragons. See, a Komodo dragon's saliva is poisonous. So when you French kiss them, you immediately know, not poisonous, not a Komodo dragon. With this tool, I've learned to handle my condition, Komodo dysmorphia. So anyways, I went to a holiday in the States a while back, and while I was sitting there by a riverside, I saw a guy in a boat, panicking, screaming, "What's wrong with the boat that I'm on?" And I said to him, I don't know dude, it seems like a perfect boat to me. Weird guy, what was going through his mind? Anyways, I was going to leave, so I went to the exit, opened the door, stepped through, closed the door behind me, and while I did that, it was dark and I felt around me and there were walls, and I thought, oh no, did it again, walked into a closet. I thought it was the exit, so embarrassing. So I had to get out of it again, and everyone saw me get out of the closet and thought, why did that idiot step into a closet and close the door behind him? I ended up having a great vacation. I even French kissed a person and then knew for sure, of course, it was a person. A girl named Raven Bird, and she's now very fat. She was too back then, but she's now very fat as well. And she knew her statistics well. She knew what percentage of birds was still homeless, considering we've been building houses for these beasts for years. A few years back I had a psychological crisis, and I was about to do what I always do when I have a psychological crisis, count the things in my favorite color. But I couldn't remember my favorite color. So I thought I'd do something completely different. Light my house on fire. So I went on Facebook and said, hey guys, I'm going to light my house on fire. I messaged the neighborhood WhatsApp group, said, don't be scared guys. I'm going to light my house on fire, don't worry. And I went to the grocery store to get some flammable stuff and matches. I was all ready for it. Suddenly my cousin comes over and he's like, blah blah blah, we love you. We saw your messages on Facebook. I don't want you to light your house on fire. And I was like, dude, can't you see I'm busy? You're literally in the way. I'm trying to start a fire here. Anyways, long story short, some psychiatrist comes over, tells me to sit down, he has to tell me something, and he says, you have schizophrenia. And I think, schizophrenia? Is that cool? Is that something I can show up with? And he looks at me with a very serious face and says, it's a very serious condition. Smiles at me and winks. And I think he's trying to make a move, so I want to be sure he isn't the Komodo dragon. So I try to French kiss him and he flinches and says, no, no, my cat will be jealous. Not that long ago, I was on my couch listening to the instrumentals of Susanna and Freek, and I saw a mouse trip and fall off the kitchen counter. So I thought, okay, let me call up my ex-girlfriend and tell her some fun facts. So I called her up and I said, hey, I just saw a mouse trip and fall off the kitchen counter, so I thought I'd call you up and tell you some fun facts. And she said, okay, is that tripping mouse still there? Okay. Then I said, did you know giraffes are the only mammals that can't yawn? And she goes, oh, whoa, really? And I said, well, I wouldn't know for sure since giraffes don't get bored around me. And she goes, yeah, of course. I told her one more fact. I said, did you know that men need to ejaculate 24 times a month to lower their chance of prostate cancer? She goes, oh, whoa, really? And I said, yes, and it's the 30th today, and I'm at 4 this month. I don't think I'll make it alone. And she goes, are you hitting on me again? And I go, never mind, I give up. Okay, last fact. Did you know, before the notion of colorblindness existed, scientists thought that dogs could change the colors of things in their mind. They ran tests on dogs and they couldn't tell certain colors apart at certain times. So they thought, surely in their mind they are changing the colors, and they thought dogs were having some sort of psychedelic experience. It wasn't until later that we really found out that dogs are just colorblind. Sometimes I think about the amateur and the professional version of things. Like take the professional version. A career criminal is often terrifying. A threat to society. They are organized crime. But on the other side, the hobby criminal is great, he's useful. And exactly the other way around, amateur child porn is horrific, it's just the worst thing in the world. But the child porn star is great, it's just a star and leads a glamorous lifestyle. I lead a pretty normal life nowadays. Although the other day was a weird one for me. I woke up with a blackout and a midget in my living room. And when I asked him, sorry, but what are you doing here? He said my girlfriend called him with a weird request and said he might be off service again. So I thought, which girlfriend? But then it all started to click and I thought, oh no, surely not. Look, let me tell you, I have a holistic therapist. And it took a while, but we have a good connection now and I'm comfortable with him. Comfortable enough to share something personal. So a few sessions ago, I said, actually, since 2017, I've been battling with erectile dysfunction. And he says, say no more, I'm your guy. I dealt with this personally, and what helped me was to start with a really small person, really small person, like a midget. Put him in the corner of your room and let him say things like, oh no, he's so big, or oh god, I'm a little scared. You have to see for yourself what the key sentences are to really give you that boost to perform. It could be, oh, I really don't dare to watch. And trust me, this really is a miracle therapy. It really worked for me. It's wonderful. So I thought, okay, I'll keep it in mind. And well, then I realized what happened that night. And I don't have the midget anymore, but I just use my smallest friend. And the key sentence that works the best for me is, oh no, I'm a little scared. Eventually I got a girlfriend and she wasn't fully comfortable with this. So I went back to my holistic therapist and said, look, I have a girlfriend now and she isn't really comfortable with a third person in the corner of the bedroom yelling things. And I said, have you got anything else? And he said, oh, okay, yeah, I have another method, but it's a little bit alternative actually. So I said, okay, I guess I'm also open to something a little bit alternative. And he said, all right, well, do you and your girlfriend maybe have a song together? And I said, yes, J-Ho from the Pussycat Dolls. And he said, perfect. then if you, every time you, for instance, set a new PR in the gym or receive a gift, yell J-Ho, that is a psychological trick, it will really work. So for the past few months, every time I set a PR or at celebrations, I've been getting J-Ho, and it really did work until at a certain time in the Starbucks I was drinking my coffee and I spilled a little bit of my coffee over myself, and I heard someone yell behind me, J-Ho! Shit, my arch enemy. And I don't know how he found out, but since then he's been following me and yelling J-Ho every time I feel that something. So now I'm stuck with the same problem again. Now let's be serious for a little bit. I do really have schizophrenia. And some time ago, a friend of mine, let's call him Tim, wanted to talk to me about it. So he invited me over for dinner. And I came over and we had dinner, and eventually he decided to bring up the awkward, sensitive subject and asked, well, these symptoms and hallucinations, do you also experience them at work? And I immediately had to think of a moment last week at work when I was going home from work and I was in the bicycle stand. So I told him, well, last week I was going home from work, I was in the bicycle stand, and I saw a banana, and I immediately thought, Tim hid this banana here for me to find. Tim is going around town to hide bananas for me to find. And while I was telling him about this delusion, I realized how funny it was, so I decided to talk over it and not give him any time to respond. So I was also telling him about other symptoms and hearing voices and stuff, and he didn't have time to process it. So to this day, he still thinks that I think he is going around town to hide bananas from me. People always say they can't guess my sexual orientation. And I'm like, duh, how would you guess that? I guess you could guess that I'm straight, but mine actually bends a little bit to the left. But how would you guess that? Anyways, talking about my dick again, puberty was a weird time for me. I only fucked one citrus fruit, and that was because I saw a video of a woman blindfolding her husband and using a grapefruit with a hole in it to pretend to give him a blowjob. And when I saw that, I thought, I need to get a grapefruit. And I actually tried it and it worked, but it felt nothing like a blowjob, but you can try to do that. I did some weird shit as a horny teenager. I once masturbated with a group of boys together outside. And later we'd end up watching porn together, and they showed me some like hardcore shit, and I was really underdeveloped in this apartment. I only watched like a picture of ass or titties. And a year later or so, I would actually end up making my own porn in Microsoft Paint. I googled for pictures of penises and pasted them onto the profile pictures of my female classmates. And I've often masturbated to that, thinking, oh yeah, penis in your face, haha. I mean, can you imagine doing that and someone finding out? It's possibly the most ridiculous, most embarrassing thing I've done. And also I now know it's actually illegal because we were all underage.